We've been in Visby now for about 3 days, and we've seen friends and we've been to some parties and stuff like that. It's been really fun and we've seen the city again. But now it is time to get out and try and make our way towards Stockholm again. But the winds aren't really playing ball with us at the moment. It's a really light winds over there, south winds, which is nice, but they're super light. So what we might end up doing is going a bit towards the west and then hitting a place further south on the coast, further south from Stockholm, just to get a bit more apparent wind in the sail, get a bit more speed, and then we'll wait for a wind to push us further north. Otherwise, I think we're heading for Landsort or something like that. I always get a bit, I don't know, a bit edgy when there's a long passage in front, you know, and you know, what's it like going to be out when we get out there? Is it going to be too light? It's better than too heavy, but you know, a nice wind of 12 knots from the stern would be the ideal situation, but you know, you got to live with what you're given, eh? But yeah, we're just preparing to go now, and it roughly takes about an hour to get the boat ready. And we've raised the Jenica again and got that all set up, so hopefully that should help us out. Let's see how it goes. This is a bit of a pain in the ass because when we come out of the harbour, the wind is due east. There's no chance I could fly a Jenica. I mean, the angle's looking at about 80 degrees, true wind angle to the boat, so it's just not going to happen with the Jenica. And the actual forecast is that the wind should be coming from the south, so I've got to get a code 0 up, which is, yeah, it's okay. I mean, the sea is relatively flat, which makes it much easier than last time, but still it's... Anyway, it's good practice. Take the Jenica down, get the code 0 up.
Welcome to the sail changing boat. Alright.
What a up though, I don't know, I should have just gone out to the wall and seen which way the wind was really coming from. It was all going well until the wind completely disappeared. Guys, we have become completely becalmed.
Becalmed? Is that even a word?
Yeah, it's a bit becalmed when there's no wind. So about an hour ago we were doing 7 knots with the code 0 up and everything, but now we have 1, maybe 2 knots of wind, so thank you forecast.
Again.
Completely wrong, but yeah.
Again.
Hopefully we should get some winds later on, but on the plus side, it's very relaxed. You can just sit here and not worry about anything and just enjoy the sun. We are burning diesel and putting engine hours on the motor, but you know, whatever.
So the plan was for today to go to Landsort, but unfortunately we can't get a spot there, so we have changed our course and are going further north instead.
Yeah, we're going to Nataro again.
Yeah. So Landsort another time.
Yeah. The sea temperature is now over 23 degrees. And it's because of this thick algae that's growing in certain places in the Baltic, and it's not good for the environment. It's not good when you see all this algae. It's just due to, I think, pollution and an imbalance in the ecosystem. So bit sad to see, but over 23 degrees in the Baltic. I mean, it's in the middle of the Baltic. It's quite special, I think, but on the other hand, you really wouldn't want to go swimming in this algae because it's apparently quite toxic, so not a good idea. Every so often I'd have to nip downstairs and check the seawater coolant strainer. Make sure it's not blocked in any way. Well, what can I say, guys? Same thing happened to us in the crossing last time we came across to Gotland. We ended up motoring back because we just couldn't get the wind to go back up north again. So it feels a bit wrong. We're in a sailing boat, we're motoring halfway across the Baltic, but look at the AIS every once in a while, look at the horizon every once in a while. Stay alert. Penya's gonna have a little nap, and then we should be there about 10 or 11 at night, something like that. Summer cyanobacterial blue-green algae blooms are a major environmental issue in the Baltic Sea. Caused by high nutrient levels, eutrophication from agriculture and wastewater. These blooms often appear as yellow-green stringy masses, creating toxic conditions that threaten ecosystems, fishing, tourism, you name it. It basically indicates that the Baltic is deoxygenated, polluted, and out of balance. We were debating a little bit whether to have the dinghy up on the deck like this or just to deflate it, but actually if you're not using the jib and you're only using big sails, you can push it all the way sort of back to the mast, and then you've got just enough room at the bow there to deal with the big sails and get them up and down, etc. I mean, this is a long dinghy actually. It's 3.4 meters, so perhaps a 310 rib would have been a better size, a bit more manageable, but actually it's kind of nice to have the bigger dinghy. Tuna wraps and stuff, you know? Simple dinner, but you work wonders with dinner for sure every time. That is literally the third time that Gotland has passed us today. It's really fast, that ferry. It does 30 knots, so he's doing, you know, more than 3 times faster than us. When we arrived in Nataro, there was an unbelievable amount of boats on anchor, so we tried to anchor somewhere in between them, but the distances were a bit too close. So we ended up backing up and anchoring on the edge, which was a bit safer.
It's a beautiful morning. We're back in the Stockholm archipelago. We're at Nataro. We arrived quite late last night, around 11. And we could already see that there was a lot of boats in the bay, and oh my god, it was anchor lights everywhere. But we got the hook down and had a good night's sleep. I think boats started to leave already at 6 o'clock this morning, so there's just a continuous stream of boats going out. Unfortunately, the morning dip will have to be skipped because of the algae, because I don't want to use all of the fresh water on rinsing after. And we really need to make a good job of keeping Ollie out of the water, since it's very, very poisonous for him.
Ooh. A little bit close to that boat right now. Seems like there's someone being towed out of the bay here. It's another beautiful day. The winds are not as predicted again, but you know, it's frustrating, but there we go. But I'm not doing another day of motoring. Like, I'm just a bit fed up of motoring this holiday now. We've been on the engine too long. We probably run the engine for about 30 or 40 hours or something like that. So let's stop that. Nataro is more or less the most southern point in the Stockholm archipelago, and it's a beautiful place to come actually. We haven't spent a lot of time here, we've more or less used it as a stopping point in the past, but it's a real gem if you want to go and visit. Just starting the engine, and yeah, that was the sound of the regulator from the alternator telling the engine ECU that there's no charging. But I've actually set a soft ramp in the alternator there, so basically it means that when you start the engine it takes 20 seconds for the alternator to kick in, because now we've got a bigger alternator. Before oil gets around the engine, I don't really want the alternator to load the engine that much, so yeah, we've got to live with that noise for about 10 seconds before we can get going. Anyway, just getting the anchor up now and getting going. We always wear the headsets when getting up the anchor now, because the anchor windlass is so noisy actually, and it's so much easier to talk to each other and get going that way, you know, and communicate with each other. Otherwise, you know, hand signals work, but talking to each other is much better. And we use the bow thruster as well, just to line the boat up better with the anchor as it's coming up. It's always handy. Although these little channels are really quite well I don't know, charted, you know, you can see the depth, you know what depth it is, but when it's like sort of 3 meters, you know, you're still kind of wary anyway of if there's anything, or you know, so I always slow down regardless, you know, down to like 2 knots maybe or something like that, because it just feels better, you know. I don't go racing through these little channels at 5 knots, it's just not worth it, I don't think. So yeah, but it's kind of fun actually going around and getting the boat into these little places. It's yeah, feels cool.
Are we winning? No,
Wing on wing sailing with the Code Zero. It works pretty okay actually.
beautiful.
Yeah?
Yes, and the boat you said it was a race with, we are overtaking momentarily.
That's good. We are really kicking ass with this sail configuration at the moment. Doing 5 to 6 knots downwind in about 6 to 7 knots. It's really good. Well, gusting up to about 9 or 10, which is perfect actually. Having a really nice sail. The normal procedure to Gybe Code Zero is actually to wrap it up or furl it away and then furl it on the other side. I'm not really sure what I was thinking here. I was trying to do an inside jibe, but it ended up wrapping around the forestay, and it was okay because we're in light winds and we're experimenting, but it's not really a great way of doing this. This will work with a Jenica if you get the timing just right, but I think the sail thickness of the Code Zero really prevents you from doing this. It's better just to furl it away. With all this commotion going on, it actually caused a little bit of a distraction because I didn't see the sailing boat that is appearing on the port side right now.
Chris, we have a boat crossing in front.
Tanya was trying to alert me that it was there, but with the noise of the sail in my ear, I had no idea he was coming up to us.
Okay, turn the boat again. And you're going to have to get that sheet locked.
Chris, we have a boat coming.
Turn the boat the other way.
It was good that that sailing boat took avoiding action, which is one of the fundamental Colreg rules, but it was also my responsibility to actually avoid him. We were both on the starboard tack and I was to windward, which meant that I was not the stand-on vessel. So fair enough, that was my mistake, but his course change was fairly easy to be honest, and I didn't understand why the guy got really angry when he could see that I was battling a very big sail on the foredeck and we had some issues. If the situation was reversed, I would have completely understood. Anyway, this is why we show these mistakes on the channel, because maybe you can learn from them like we do. Don't try an inside Gybe code 0, and if you're short-handed and both of you are overloaded, you should have a clear plan just in case a boat comes towards you. We actually just tried to do an inside Gybe on the code 0, and it didn't really go very well actually, but it wasn't too much of a problem because we had light winds, you know. So I could go up the deck and try and straighten the sail out and things like that. And the problem happened when it basically wrapped around the forestay like twice. So you know, you have to unwrap it, bring it down, try and keep it as straight as you can so it doesn't fill with wind, and then try and fly it on the other side again. But I think in such light winds you need like 3 people to be able to do that. One to guide the sail through, one on the starboard sheet and one on the port sheet as well, and you can all work together to do it. So easiest way with the 2 of us would have just been to furl the code 0 and then unfurl it on the other side. That would have been the safest way as well. Another boat came from another direction, and actually like he had the right of way, and while we were dealing with all that commotion and things like that, he actually had to change course and go upwind a bit and just go around the back of us. And it's a bit of an interesting subject actually, because although he had right of way, I would say that if you can see someone having big problems and they're dealing with the situation on deck and they've got focus elsewhere, I would just avoid them. All he had to do was just turn upwind, slow the boat down, and then come back down on the wind again, and he would have avoided us. But you know, he was very angry with us by the looks of it and shouted at us a little bit, and yes, he had right of way, yes, we should have avoided him, but you know, read the situation, have some common sense as well. You know, if some people are dealing with something, just give them a bit of leeway as well, in my opinion at least. So after that drama, shortly after we arrived at Ut, and there's always someone to help you out in finding a mooring space.
But just take one of those. There is an electrical pole if you go a bit further in.
Part of me really likes mooring at Ut because it's a bit of a challenge, and there's always a bit of drama with the anchors crossing here and there, and it's interesting to watch and be a part of it. There should ideally be mooring lines coming out from each dock so that people can take the mooring lines, and it would make it much easier, but this is the situation it is right now. So when coming into the mooring, the boat abruptly stopped and leaned a little bit to one side, and that can only mean one thing. So because the bottom was mud, it was a very soft stop and very difficult to feel what had actually happened. But once I'd realised this, then the next stage was actually to figure out how far we are away from the dock and whether we can just force our way forward through the mud to get to the dock. That would be the easiest way. Yes, okay, you're going to lose a little bit of paint on the bottom of the keel, but it's not such a big deal. Obviously, this goes without saying, don't do this if you have a tide, it's not going to end up well for you. Nice swimsies on the northern part of the island.
Yes, very nice. I think even Ollie enjoyed getting a bit cold.
It's kind of a blessing in disguise actually, believe it or not, because actually we've kind of forced our way in, so we've forced our way through the mud, and we've docked ourselves, you know, against the brigger in front, against the bridge, but we're sitting on top of the mud, so the boat barely moves. But the advantage is that we're not swaying around all over the place on the stern anchor here. You know, the mud is keeping us very stable at the moment, so yeah, it's a bonus in disguise. But it's beautiful here. I mean, you know, sun's out again, having a fantastic day. There's more wind today, so where the hell was this wind yesterday when we were doing that Gotland crossing, you know? But so, I mean, you can't win them all. Perhaps I could be better at forecasting and better at looking at the weather, but yeah, such is life. And on that front, actually, we need to get some more diesel. I think we went from like 80% diesel down to 40% yesterday, so sometimes yachties burn diesel too. Is it hot, Ollie? Is it hot? And of course you may be wondering, why the hell is the dinghy in the cockpit? Well, I'm just draining out of water actually. There's a bit of water in it, so open the plug in the back and then it can just drain out slowly.